but not so great for what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating.
So thank you very much for coming. It's really, I was actually really encouraged to see everything that you put up there. It's nice to see that a lot of thought is being given to how the city evolves. And I've been in Toronto most of my life, and I've been able to take part in creating the city and seeing it grow. And it really, I often think about what makes a city great. And I've done a little bit of traveling, and I think it really comes down to great people with responsible development and a long-term vision. And I think everything you put up there suggests that we are well on track to achieve that. Yet we stand here in this room with hundreds of people who are obviously very concerned about just the scale and the inundation of development proposals which seem to face our community. And I do feel that in looking at these proposals, none of them have these goals in mind of a long-term vision and seeing the city grow in a responsible manner. Now, they're obviously interested in maximizing the profit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes at the expense of the community with little to no resources to offer a voice of reason and consider the long-term impacts, I think that's where we have the problem. And even in working with some of the planners, I've exchanged a few emails with them and met with them. At times you feel that their hands are a little bit tied, just given the process that they have to follow. So as Leaside is a very family-oriented garden community. Where the most valuable thing to us is not properties or land, but it's really the ambience and the character and the feel of our neighborhoods. Now, it's interesting because it is really, I think, this community feel that these developers want to sell to their prospective buyers, but it's that community feel that will be destroyed by this scale of development that is being proposed. So we did a bit of a survey for 660 Eglinton, and certainly there was a lot of interest. We had more than 250 responses to the survey, and really the primary concerns were traffic, height, the vulnerable populations, and the overcrowding of schools, and these all seem to be pretty much ignored by the development proposals, including that one at 660 Eglinton, that were really of concern to the community. In terms of height, I think 46% said 3 to 6 stories was appropriate, 37% said 7 to 9. So really there is clearly a desire for mid-rise. And granted, we expect that there's going to be development and intensification, and I don't think anyone here is against that, but it's really ensuring that there is responsible development and intensification. So I really just ask you, 3 things to bear in mind. So first is have the courage to make the responsible decisions for the long-term interests of the city. Second is, really follow the official plan. And I mean, everyone in this room paid for these studies and these focus areas. And in reading it, I was actually very encouraged. I was absolutely fine with it. Yet we see all these 30 and 25-story proposals, which seem to be completely inconsistent. That I don't actually know why anyone would consider a proposal that is in excess of 9 stories, but clearly that's what's laid out in the plan as I read it. And lastly, I just remember that while developers build the city, it's really the people that make the city what it is, and it's really the interest of the community that should be the primary concern for the planners.
Thank you very much for a very thoughtful presentation. One of the things that I would encourage you to think about as a community, as this change is beginning to happen, think about as the community changes, what those, you listed some of those, what the attributes are that you'd like to see from new development. For example, is it enhancing the pedestrian environment and creating a great public realm? Is it adding, I'm not talking about a specific project, so I would argue you should bring those concerns to the table, to the conversation, and try to shape the outcome. And I'll give you a very specific example of there was a project in the annex, and the ratepayers were super mad about this project, and I think it was about 25 stories, and they were fighting the project, and they went all the way out with the OMB, and they fought the project, and they lost at the OMB, and then the project got built, and they realized that The biggest problem with the project was the material quality and the way the public realm was designed. And they were so fixated on the scale of the building that they forgot to get something good for their community. And if you're concerned about affordability, if you're concerned about affordable housing, fight for affordable housing in the projects coming into your community. That would be a good thing to do. More affordable housing would be good in this community, right on the LRT. So think about some of the things that are attributes that would enhance the quality of the community and also enhance the walkability of the community. Because at the end of the day, you'll never have sufficient destinations within walking distance if you don't have the density that's actually going to allow those uses to really be viable through pedestrians. So I would encourage you to come to the conversations, and scale is a perfectly legitimate part of the conversation. But don't lose sight around what often matters even more, which is the quality of what's being designed, the public realm, the public spaces. What are the uses going to be? What are the units going? How are they going to be good, high-quality units, and how will they be designed? Those are some of the really important questions as a community that will have a bigger impact on your community than the scale, within reason, depending on what the scale is. And I agree. We are pushing back on the scale in this community right now. The development industry has, stars in their eyes as they do. It's a speculative market that we live in right now, where there is so much demand that you can put anything anywhere. And it's very difficult for us. Our job is to manage growth. Along the LRT corridor is an area where you're going to see growth accommodated, but that doesn't mean anything goes. It has to be a good development, good quality, and the scale has to fit the context. In some areas of the corridor, 8 stories is too tall. There's parts of that corridor where 8 stories is way too tall. There's other parts of this corridor that should be taller. It's very context specific what type of a building. You have to look at the grade as well. The grade changes all along Eglinton. You don't put your highest building on the tallest point of the grade, because it's going to accentuate the height. You have but you can put a building that is a bit taller on a lower point in the grade. These are the nuances and sensitivities that have to be brought to the conversation in order that you're creating something that is going to enhance the character of the community over time. But it's very nuanced.
No, I appreciate those comments. I agree with everything there. I think the big issue is that we don't have the resources. I mean, we're up against all these developers with armies of lawyers and planners and developers and architects who they have one goal in mind, and that's fine. I understand it, but we rely on the city for the most part to protect our interests. And I think, as you highlighted, your resources are stretched. So who's going to look out for how this city looks like in 20 years? It seems to be just completely led by the development community, which is quite frankly is wrong.
Well, I don't actually think that's what's happening. And one of the things we're doing in using video to communicate more clearly is we're creating some videos showing examples of proposals that came in, what the developer proposed, and then what we agreed to at the end of the process. And you would be shocked to see what's proposed versus the whole process we go through and what comes out the other end. Oh, in the first proposal, there's no open space. In the last proposal, there's a linear walkway. The building has been set back. The height has come down. The material quality has been improved. We go through a significant negotiation, but I hear your pain because we face this all the time, particularly at the OMB, where we've got one planner up against a sea of 15 planners, and it isn't pretty. It's challenging, but it is one of the reasons why many people need to get involved in the process and play a role. And in many communities around the city, there's kind of foot soldiers, people who have become very educated about the planning process and have collaborated, and people take on different roles at different times in the process, often working very closely with us, and we find those collaborations invaluable.
Thank you. I'm very encouraged by your comments.